trend review, but I have Sandra Thompson, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself right now. So, Sandra, tell us about what you do at World Venture.
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, like Nikki said, I'm Sandra Thompson, and currently I am working with WorldVenture as the pre-field ministry mentor, which basically I help new appointed missionaries from the time they're appointed all the way until wheels go up and they're on their plane headed to the mission field.
Awesome. So, you were at training last week.
Yes. Fun time.
So, what was your favorite moments, or not last week, week before last week?
Before.
Time
Mhm.
so fast, and it's
They all
already
just blend together.
I know. It's already Thanksgiving. It's already Thanksgiving tomorrow. Geez. So tell me about your favorite moments during the training. What stood out with you?
You know, people are so great. And the new appointees that we had were just absolutely incredible. And I just love them. And like my favorite part is their whole relationship building. So, you do the training on Zoom and that's great. And it's nice that we have that option. But when you're in person, it's just that seeing the relationships that get built, being able to build relationships myself and deepen them, especially with the appointees. Hearing their heart and their ministry, and then seeing them kind of come alongside each other and help each other and just laugh together. So I would say laughter is big for me. So, yeah.
So now I hear you have a thing with crazy socks.
I do.
So, I want to see your crazy socks before we show everyone my crazy socks. And I'll tell you a story about the crazy socks on my part. But tell us about why you wear crazy socks too.
Um, Laziness. Mostly because so laundry is not my thing. When I got married, my husband, we agreed that he would be the one to do the laundry because I will just throw my socks in the drawer and I wake up in the morning and my feet are cold and I just grab socks that are not folded together. So like these are mine. Can you see them?
I can see it. Yes.
So, and fuzzy socks is my favorite. So I'll wear fuzzy socks even in the summer. I love socks and crazy socks. And here's this story. I'm just going to tell it really quick.
Sure. Go ahead.
My daughter works at Talbot's. And so if anybody from Talbot's is on there, great. And she has to get these goals every month. And for me, Talbot's is just like really expensive. And so their clothes are good quality, but I don't wear them. And so, well, I do wear them now because she works there and gets a great discount. But so to help her reach her goal, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, sure, make me an appointment. And so I'll go in there and the only thing I can afford is socks. So I have a lot of socks that are Talbot socks with lemons and reindeer and so socks are great. I love socks.
Are great.
They
Yeah,
are.
so I'm basically, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I'll try not to fall out of my chair as I'm showing you. I've got the Don't Wake the Bear and Gobble Gobble.
Gobble.
Yeah.
Love.
My story with the crazy socks have to do with social media. So basically, I was one day at my day job. I get dressed half in the dark because my husband was asleep. And I went in, I opened up my drawer and just grabbed two socks. It looked like they were black socks. And I put them on, went to work. I worked in an office, it's business casual, nothing fun like crazy socks. And I looked down in the fluorescent light, and one is blue and one is black. And so just for exasperation and kind of fun, I posted on my personal social media, hey, I can't seem to match my socks this morning. Just found out that I'm wearing one black, one blue. And about a week or two later, a box appears in the mail at home. Inside are all these mismatched crazy socks. There was no return address. There was no note, nothing on Facebook. I still to this day have no idea who was thoughtful enough to send me crazy socks. So to this day, I do not wear matching socks ever.
That's awesome.
I have a drawer full of crazy socks, and I just picked two that don't have holes in them. We didn't say that on live broadcast. I picked two that basically are the craziest, and even if it's with nice pair of slacks, I'll wear it because it makes me smile.
It does.
Whoever was the generous person who sent that to me, I always remember who the nameless person. God knows.
Yes, yes. Well, my husband's always like, I think I need to buy you new socks. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Oh, no. Like it just saved a bunch of angst, and tension of trying to find the matching white socks or the matching, colored socks together. And now I don't really worry about it. Just toss them in a drawer. Just saves me time.
Exactly.
Mothers awesome. Everywhere who do laundry have horrified looks on their faces because they roll theirs in a ball or something,
But it would make laundry so much faster.
It would. Just toss it in a drawer. Yes.
Sock bin. And then it's less stressful when you can't find the other sock in the wash because the washing machine ate it.
I have a conspiracy theory that there is something there's something built into the dryer that sucks up the socks that match the other socks, and they never see the light of day. I think it's a black hole. But anyway, so tell me, you have, before you and Ralph were stateside, tell me about your history in missions. What were you doing before you came to headquarters?
Sure. So we were in East Africa, and we were working with unreached people groups there, doing church planting, evangelism, discipleship. And, along with that comes, counseling and working with children, which my heart was with the young Muslim girls and children. And so together we did a lot of counseling. We did a lot of, we had Bible studies, and we worked along with our church. I also did some counseling with some of the kids. My children went to the Aga Khan Academy, which is a really great school, and it has everybody from every religion. And so I had the privilege of teaching Christian religion class, and all of the students that weren't Muslims or Hindus who had nowhere to go because there was no teacher for their class, they would just throw them in with the Christian class. So I had some Buddhists in there, and some others, agnostics. I had a lot of Catholics. So it was really fun. So I did that, but I also counseled some of the students from there. And then, I worked in the church, did children's ministry, worked with young Muslim girls. We did so much. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint. But one of the main ministries that we were involved in was starting we helped start an NGO, where we built a coffee shop in an unreached community. And our goal was to plant a church in a place where there has not been a church. It's the place in this country where the first missionary stepped foot, but there's never been a church there. So we were able to help start that. And God took us out of it right as it got off its feet and started growing. And so today there are Muslim background believers that are meeting. So it's really encouraging.
Awesome. So you planted a seed and it grew, and now it's operating independently.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. So let's talk about what we've been sharing about what God has been doing around the world through WorldVenture. One of the things is we posted a topic yesterday. I actually asked a question on Facebook because there's a lot of broken families and displaced people, and they don't have it. They either have never been from a different country, they've never experienced an American Thanksgiving, or they just basically are American and they just haven't had that kinship connection. Yeah. So when I posted a question about what unbelievers are coming to Thanksgiving dinner, we had a lot of responses. There's a lot of family members out there, and don't worry, everyone in the audience, we are praying for your responses to that question, and I thank you for responding.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of people who are unbelievers coming to these dinners, family members, and one person in particular mentioned how he or she was the only believer in their whole family.
Mhm.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled to see, though, that Chris Copeland had posted that apparently in Ireland, they were really thrilled about having the Irish youth over for an American Thanksgiving. Apparently, it was a hit last year.
Uh-huh.
And he was the same person who does that role playing game that's so popular that they did their own version, and they've got someone who became a believer.
That's awesome.
Form of Dungeons and Dragons, but basically we also got a response from the Thomases in Poland. Apparently next week they're having 200 students and parents coming to Thanksgiving parties at the Christian language school, and most, she said, do not know Jesus personally. So she asked, may God be praised as we give him thanks. So have you ever invited any strangers to your table, or what's your Thanksgiving like?
Oh, yeah. So in Kenya, it's funny because holidays are the best. They're the best time to invite unbelievers to your house, because they're like, hey, free food and free celebration. And you're like, hey, let me tell you why. Right. And they see that when they're at your house, they see that you're real people. And so my husband had this really close friend from a Muslim background who has, again, never been to an American holiday, never celebrated an American holiday. American foods, that's not really, hasn't also really been something that he's had much. So he was a young man by himself, nothing to do. And Ralph started meeting with him. And so he invited him over. And it's funny because I've been in other places where you've had the whole turkey dinner. And a lot of countries think that Americans are crazy because why would you eat dry meat? Like, so, and so, I made sure that, I think I made chicken because my kids were in school on Thanksgiving. Yeah. So we did it at night, and I think I just did chicken with gravy, and it was very saucy, and he absolutely loved it. And I just remember he allowed us to pray for him, and he's just like, he felt the love. And every time we invite somebody over for a holiday or some type of thing, it's just like, there's a love that we have the honor of sharing that most people don't. And that's the love of Christ. And I think when you invite people in your home, and whenever we would invite people in our home for Thanksgiving, or one of our colleagues would always have a big outreach event, even for Christmas. And that's where you deepened relationships. And it was just so beautiful to see. So yeah, just don't make your turkey dry.
No. And I'm not fond of turkey. So I was always the person who took the ham,
And I'm vegetarian, so there's not really much.
Oh boy. Oh goodness. So so basically we also posted about Nick Sullivan. He's in Southeast Asia. So he started trying to learn how to do video editing, which is always fun when you first learn how to do it. I'm trying to teach volunteers to do it at my own church, my own team, and so it's not really, it's an art to really do that. But he agreed to do 3 videos a week for 6 weeks, teaching an introduction to community health evangelism to some Bible college students in an omitted location in Southeast Asia. So apparently he's not sure if he was successful, but apparently he got feedback from it that the students were very much interested. In fact, what they did is they dressed up. He did some role play in the videos. So he dressed up as 2 different people, switching back and forth. So that took some creativity.
Sure.
And then there was another person, and I won't mention the name because I don't know that I have permission to share it, but um, person mentioned that at 40 years old, it's not easy to learn a new language. So you've experienced kind of the obstacle with language learning, haven't you?
Yeah. Still. Even English. Never mind.
Hey, I'm still learning English. Just ask anyone who's friends with me. No, I'm famous for mispronouncing English words.
Exactly. People used to be like, how many languages do you know? And I'm like, well, I'm most fluent in probably Pig Latin. Pig Latin and English are kind of the same. Learning Swahili, you know? Yeah. But yeah, it's what I don't even know what your question was. Did I experience learning? Yes. Yes.
It's the challenge of language learning,
Yes. Yeah.
especially when you're not kind of, gifted in language learning.
Yeah. It is really challenging, but the other side of it too is depending on who you have tutoring you, it's a really great opportunity to either share the gospel or to just disciple somebody or just be a testimony, even if it's a believer that's tutoring you. I had one friend in particular who she would always encourage me to speak Swahili because I was I'm very like, I know the grammar. I need to know the vocabulary. I can dissect, I can diagram, all that. But to actually speak it, that's the challenge for me is, my husband's really good at making mistakes. Wait, that didn't sound right.
Love
Love you, honey. You can edit this live stream, right?
No, not.
Anyway, he's really good and not afraid to make mistakes. And he's like out there and he's speaking it. But like I'll make a mistake and get laughed at and I'll be like, oh, forget it, or I'll be having a bad day and I'm like, oh, forget it. But I had this one girl, she was really good about encouraging me. And we were able to, she helped me learn, Islamic culture as well. And I just remember being at her house one time and somebody in her family was getting married and we were helping her. And so I was able, they do arranged marriages. So I was able to share with her the story of Esther. And so trying to think of the Swahili words to come up with that, she was helping me through that because she had a cousin in the room who was helping us as well. And so that was kind of fun. And then also sitting in a room with some short-term workers, we were sitting in the room and they were getting ready for the wedding a few days later, and all of her aunties were in there, and they were talking about how they have matching, their matching makeup and their matching jewelry and all their bling and their, their shoes. And we're sitting there, and then they start talking in Swahili about how it's funny because I'm sitting in there, and she points out her friend Sandra, which is me, and Sandra's friend, who is the short-termer, who was sitting in there, and they're laughing at us. The girl that was with me was laughing, and I'm like, yeah, don't laugh. And then they said something, and they said something like, oh, if they knew, like in Swahili, it was kind of like, if only they knew what we were saying, they wouldn't be laughing. And I looked and I was like, I know, but it's okay. We have a good sense of humor. And they just looked and they couldn't believe that I understood them. And I was like, but it's okay. She doesn't have a clue what you're saying. So we're all good. So anyway, but it's fun. It's fun because, it's definitely a learning curve, but I think I learned that I'm not going to be perfect. I just need to let myself be laughed at and laugh along because, I'm doing it for the Lord. And it's their heart language, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's what Nick was basically doing is he had he was meeting with a Thai pastor regularly now. And so he is, apparently the Thai pastor has a meeting with a small group of new believers, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And so he is able to do ministry, but at the same time, learn a language.
Exactly.
And I imagine it's probably pretty humbling trying to you're the missionary, so to speak, and you're the leader, so to speak, but you're learning a language and you have to be humble about messing up, and
Yeah.
student as well.
Yeah, but and at the same time, I think when you put yourself in that position, it brings a level of respect from the people, because they're like, wow, you're willing to learn and not expecting us to learn your language. So it's like when you go in as a learner, I think that there's a lot more respect and it deepens the relationship. So for sure.
So 3 days ago, we posted about Russia Worship, which is a music ministry that serves the Russian church. And so basically, what he was talking about, it was very successful. And this particular event, they had this kind of worship conference. They had to meet online due to the situation happening. But they have different people from like 5 different countries and in 3 US states, and there was 300 participants engaged in the event itself. And basically there were sermons by Russian pastors. There was an interview with a producer and songwriter. Yeah, they have new songs that are written by Ukrainians, Russians, and American songwriters. So it's the world in conflict does not reflect the people that are working together, the believers that are working together across borders and using technology to make this stuff happen. And so it's kind of amazing how like during pandemic, the church wasn't shut down.
Right.
You know, we were able to, my church, especially my home church, and others that I trained, we were all, our own global workers were able to use that technology. And then instead of going backwards to what a lot of people are saying, I wish things were back to the way it was before, excuse me, we are going to, in the forward, innovating and continuing to use the technology in order to reach people across the way, which I think is amazing.
It is.
So how have you been using the technology to reaching people or discipling people at your church or ministry?
Yeah, well, for a while, our ladies' Bible study group was able to do it on Zoom. And that's what I liked about the pandemic. I mean, there was a lot of hard stuff in the pandemic, and a lot of lives were lost for sure.
Yeah.
But to see how God used it for good, like he does everything somehow. It's actually just so amazing that even one of the Bible studies that we used to go to in Kenya, we're not part of that anymore. But I know that now they still were meeting every month, and not only did they meet with the people that normally would meet, but they were able to meet with people that have used to come that have moved. And so just to see the way that God used technology to grow. I mean, I would say that you're the technology expert. For myself, I'm able to do my job mentoring people with technology. But I'm not like, hey, let me start something here. But I wish like I find myself like, if I had that gift, definitely I would use it more. My son uses it. I just see how it's really grown, and it's really a huge blessing. But again, Nikki, I am not the technology expert. Ask the printer at the home office.
Oh,
go look at the history. No, but I have seen God use it in amazing ways, and I know a lot of people that used to shy away from it, especially like my parents' generation. They now have embraced it, and it's just really brought a lot of people together, I think, for the sake of the Lord and the gospel.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there's a way to do Zoom. I mean, I know people who don't like it, but there's a way you do Zoom in order to make it an experience, so that they want to connect. In fact, I have an online Bible study that has actually met since 2016, I think. And we have kept the same crew of people with new people that join every year and then drop off, a normal kind of thing. Zoom is meant to be small groups, so it works really well.
Yeah.
and the connections we have are really deep. So those that think it's not, online isn't real, it's like, no, it's very real.
Yes.
It just depends how much effort you want to pour into it to make it worth your while,
Right.
and to use it well, and to understand the tools, so that you're not doing typically what happened in the beginning of the pandemic that I experienced with some of the newbies. Where's the mute button?
Like if you say, hey, you're on mute one more time.
Or people get on late and they're just like talking to their husbands or whatever, and they're like, hey, I don't know how to turn on the volume.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm like, no, I'm muting you.
Yeah.
So
when you accidentally think you hit the mute, the camera button, but you hit the mute button and you stand up and you're wearing your crazy thigh-high socks and crazy pants in the middle of Bible study. Yeah, I've never done that. But yeah.
No, never. Yeah.
No. And it's nice because when it's like freezing, icy, cold, and dangerous outside, for those of us that live in cold climates, you can still do it.
I don't mind this hybrid workspace.
I know, it's great. It's a blessing.
So what is your favorite tea? Do you drink tea?
I drink tea at night, not in the morning. In the morning, I'm a coffee person all the way.
Amen.
But I will drink tea at night, either ginger tea. I love Indian masala tea. I have to have it black. I can't have it with milk. But now in the States, I tried it with almond milk. It tastes a little bit different. But coconut milk is actually really good with it. So do I have a favorite? Anything that I'm in the mood for, as long as it's hot. There you go. That's my favorite tea. But I love chai. I will say I love chai.
Well, then you'd have something in common with one of our other employees over at headquarters who also loves chai tea. I'll tell you about her when we're not live.
Okay.
But yeah, no, she has a love for chai tea, and I also love chai tea as well. I like tea at night. The good earth, the spicy is kind of a favorite. Oddly enough, I do like the one called by Tazo called Calm, which has nothing to do with my life whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's the one I have.
Yeah.
I have that one.
The Changs, we posted kind of a fun post about our favorite tea. And if you all go back a couple days ago or so, you'll see pictures from the Changs in Japan. They went to a tea museum. And apparently, Mr. Chang is Gary Chang is a big gamer, and apparently liked how they set up everything for the tea, which had nothing to do with electronics, but I guess it's the interface. But the cost of that, so they said it cost 100 yen to grind your own green tea powder. So I was kind of curious about, wow, 100 yen, that sounds expensive, until I did the Google search and was like, oh, it's only 71 cents.
That's when you tell the story. It cost 100 yen.
It's like the running, it's far cooler to say that you ran like a 10K, because it sounds really cool. But when you break it down, it's what 3 to 5 miles or something like that.
Right, exactly.
5 miles or something like that. So it's like, yeah, we went 100K. Right. Miles. I don't know. So we one thing to celebrate, though, Randy Hacker in Poland allowed me to share that he was able to baptize 2 people in, I think it's called Lublin, a young man from Belarus and a woman from Odessa, Ukraine. So yeah, that was a happy moment to post. I always like to post how our workers are in the middle of the process of bringing people to Christ. But as you know, bringing people to Christ, it's like God brings people into our lives in seasons, and that's all part of bringing us to that point of making a decision. But another kind of interesting thing, about a week ago, we posted about Lene Bazy's letters she found from her parents in the Congo. I was just thinking how quaint that is. You found letters, actually written letters, letters you mail.
Right. That's the thing, people.
And apparently they were in Swahili too.
Oh, cool.
She was looking for someone to translate some things. She's writing their memoir, but I thought that was interesting, being that it would be a different time back then for her parents and reading their point of view. I've always been curious to read other people's diaries because I'd want to know, okay, what they go through as teenagers. And so I just think the value of legacy. So with social media post updates, everything is just out there.
Yeah.
Newsletter updates, our whole lives are online as workers, and
Yep.
and it makes me wonder. I mean, what do you think? What will your kids be looking back on when you're with Jesus and they're still stuck down here on earth? What do you think they're going to get from your life? You and Ralph.
A lot of laughs. But I will say it, when I was younger, I used to have a journal, but I struggle with like trusting people. Like, I grew up with 3 other sisters, and it's like, if they ever found this, they would destroy me somehow. And I was the third child, the quiet child that nobody remembered existed. So if they ever found what I wrote, they would they would have a great day. So I always used like my own shorthand so that if anybody ever found my journal, they would have no idea what I was talking about. But now, being my age, even I don't remember what I was talking about. And I kind of can decipher it. But it's like, if I knew back then, if I thought hard enough about it to say, wow, like this is my history, And when I read that post, I was like, yeah, what would they find? They would find they would have fun. They would have fun being like, oh, it's a cryptogram. Let's figure out what mom is. So yeah, but I share a lot of stories with my kids, and so I know, and songs with I think everything is a song in my house. So yeah, that's one of the things that I wish I did better at was journaling. And I've started journaling more and more, not faithfully every day, but I think that they would just see the faithfulness of Christ. And, I don't even know if I should say this. They'll see also that, even when you're married, you will go through hard times, but with Jesus as the center, it will bring you together. Because, I have no problem writing down, he's such a jerk. And then the next day, I've forgiven him. It was really my fault. But just seeing, I mean, they don't even need to read my journal to see that, because I'm very open book. But yeah.
Well, I'm reading a book currently, going through it, is John and Abigail Adams' letters to each other, love letters to each other.
Yes.
And if some of you know your history, I'm not going to assume you do. If you know your history, they were part of the American Revolutionary War effort, presidents of our country. So I was reading the letters between the two. They spent a lot of time apart. And those letters sometimes were hijacked by the British a lot of the times. But I saw that sometimes she got pretty punchy with her words to him, and he got back, and they got back together. And so, yeah.
Yeah. It's good, because then, they see, people see that marriage is hard, but it's still worth it,
It is.
And you just have to love.
Yeah. Love, grace, forgive.
I mean, my husband is a really good, I joke around, I would not want to be married to me. So I am so thankful. He's my number one thankful. I'm thankful for him.
Well, my husband is Mr. Clean, and I'm college dorm. So,
hey, I think I use that, Nikki.
So basically, I'm very challenging to be married to in that regard when you're Mr. Clean. So, and I'm sorry, Tony, if you're watching this. So one of the things that we posted as well just about this week was from Ruth Ann Cross. As you know, she's in Spain, and she runs a community center, and she helps refugees. So, we look at things, and we don't think, for instance, I had a conversation with a pastor about tracts. He was always of the opinion, oh, tracts don't work.
Mm-hmm.
But then one day he gave a tract to someone because there was nothing else, and that was a good thing to do. There was some good conversation from that.
Yeah.
So just when we think something isn't going to work or just useless what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
God does something with it. So in this case, she wrote, at the Friendship House, we have 2 portable chalkboards. Every few months, I will draw out a scripture verse, put the board on display somewhere in a classroom, and leave it. And then she writes, then came last week. Our colleague came to me and showed me the profile picture of one of our students. The student is one of our friends from the South. She has an educational foundation that enables her to read, write, and understand Spanish. She understood what was written on the small board and still wanted to take a picture of it and make it her profile picture for a social contact group. And so Ruth Ann says, this may not sound like a big deal, but anyone who has any social media knows your profile picture is seen by anyone and everyone you are in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
This person is not yet a follower of Christ. So basically, I mean, look at those different things you could do. The scripture scrawled over the top of the Starbucks, or not scripture, but a nice, a positive thing scrawled at Starbucks, to what they put on your cup that people like to take a picture of. All those things matter.
Exactly.
And then if you see those kind of posts on social media, it's a great opportunity for people to actually hit reply and have a meaningful conversation, either publicly or privately.
Yeah.
And oftentimes what I tell people is you don't always have to respond to a status update or a picture update in a public manner. You can send a private message to someone, and that way you don't bring, their non-believing friends into the conversation where they could decide to either attack or distract.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, if you discuss with them on social media from that post, it could be a way for you to be overheard in what you're saying and get involved in multiple conversations.
Exactly.
So it is a personal decision on that. But do you have any suggestions how we could, today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
there was a meme that went on to one of our Facebook groups about this being a Apocalypse Wednesday, if I can say that word in English. Thank you. And today apparently all the complaints are online about people, the parking lots are full. My husband went to get bread yesterday and it was even
a nightmare.
Yeah, a nightmare. Instant check out was had a line that wrapped around. So, and Thursday's Thanksgiving. So between today and tomorrow, what little things would you suggest that we all do in order to show our gratitude to people, to be caring for people as Christians?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that God has really put on my heart is, again, it's that whole thing about relationship. And I'll go into the store, and in Kenya, it was just a natural thing. So here, it takes people a minute, but when you go up to somebody, especially if they have their name tag on at the register, so you're my cashier, and I can see you're stressed, or something's going wrong, or you're mad at me because I'm fumbling, taking forever. I don't know. I just usually, look and just say, thanks, Nikki. I really appreciate you working today. Or, thank you, Nikki. I know this job must be hard, or, you're really appreciated. Just those little comments. At first, they just look like, whoa, who are you? And why are you saying my name? But, there are times where they'll just look and they'll be like, oh, thanks. And it will change that whole, the whole attitude of that employee. And even yesterday, I was at the grocery store. It was a nightmare. And I had an older gentleman who was checking me out, and he was telling me how awful the person that went before me was, and he was apologizing. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's a busy day. We're all going through it. And I'm like, and you're doing your job well still, And so she heard, and she smiled, and then he looked and he's like, yeah, you're right. It's been busy. And so like just those little comments or just a smile, it sounds cliche, Nikki, but people just have to know that the whole world is not miserable, you know, and there are reasons that we can rejoice and reasons that we can be thankful. And like Ruth Ann shared, you know, you can put a verse on your social media page and somebody's going to read it and it's going to help them. You know, you don't have to put a big explanation. You don't have to do just little things like that, letting other people know that they're appreciated. Because, yeah, I mean, I have the privilege of not being a cashier at a very busy grocery store the day before Thanksgiving. And I couldn't imagine like the stress that it would bring, you know, having to check everybody out fast. But just little things like that. Or another thing, you know, is sending somebody that you know in your contacts list that you haven't talked to a while, a message, a funny GIF, or, you know, hey, thinking of you, kind of a thing. Those things are always, people just want to know that they're being thought of and that they're cared for. And that's the blessing that we have, is to do that because of the love of Christ. So, yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we just announced this morning, as we wrap up our time, did you know that I don't know if you got the email this morning, but did you know that we have a bunch of partners that have decided to do a $50,000 matching gift for Giving Tuesday?
Yes.
So just to let you all know, on Tuesday, November 29th, you need to, if you want to give on that day, to our Giving Tuesday link, which is on our website, worldventure.com. At the top, just click on Giving Tuesday. It's going to match it. So even if you give 100, that'll be 200 for us. Right. So giving on Tuesday would be, we pray that you feel led to do that, because it will support the training that people like Sandra do, the people like I do. It will support the sending and sustaining of missionaries. So you know, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you only see the missionary in their other country. You don't know what keeps them there, and you don't know what sends them there. So be thinking of us in your prayers, and pray for us during this time. And thank you for joining us, everybody. It was a great conversation with Sandra.
Thank you.
And I would encourage everyone to be rebels and not wear matching socks.
No, don't. And who cares if the person doesn't like it? No. He'll appreciate it later.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.